Hi there. I just want to do a talk on the Matrix and the Matrix self and what it is. Um, as you can see, with my videos, I will do videos again when I'm talking to a camera. I haven't done one of them in a while, but just sometimes it depends on what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. If I'm talking about an important subject, sometimes I'll just like put a picture on, and I just do whatever I'm comfortable with, really. And I like to mix it up. Sometimes do like this, sometimes talk to the camera, but whatever is with what I'm wanting to talk about and with the present moment. But moving on, I want to talk about the Matrix and the Matrix self. And this is all things that starts to become apparent with you once you start um, spiritually awakening. What happened to me was, just under 10 years ago, I had an unexpected spiritual awakening. I was 24 at the time. I'm 33 on my birthday, and so just under 10 years, under 10 years of this awakening, and it was unexpected. I didn't know anything about this kind of thing. And it was completely. I had to look on YouTube and the internet for years to find out what was happening. But what it did is, in that awakening, you start to be aware. Your awareness is now changing. Your awareness is changing. What's happening is you're aligning with the divine self. You've got a divine self, which is there's a version of you that lives in heaven. Heaven is a place. And now that you're aligning with that, you're now aware that the old you was part of the Matrix self. Now, the Matrix self is what you feel when you look on eBay. It's what you feel when you go into a shop. It's endless choice. And what's happening in this endless choice that we have in the Matrix self is the Matrix self and the Matrix reality is created by everybody else who are programmed by this reality. Right? It's a reality of ego. And so you've got egoic things mixed and mashing against each other. But in that spiritual awakening, you start realizing, you realize that you need to embark in the Matrix to understand it. Same, I've seen people say that they give certain sniffer dogs cocaine, so they know what cocaine is. But when you embark in the Matrix, once you're aware of it, though, when you're not aware of it, you don't know what's going on. But once you have that spiritual awakening, and you start to embark on the Matrix again, you start to realize that what's actually happened as soon as you embark on the Matrix reality, like for example a shop. When you're in a shop, that's a classic example. When you go into a shop, a store, and there's all this distraction, what's happening is the ego is coming out. And what drives this ego is subconscious trauma. And this is what really molds the Matrix self. And that's why you get people that will want to create endless distractions for you, like in a shop, because they would like that, because they can read your ego, because that's what their ego wants. And so you've then got a reality of egoic things everywhere, and that's what the Matrix reality is. It's just egoic. It's different. All of our egos mixing together, and it creates this egoic realm, which is the Matrix. That's what the Matrix really is. And how you can awaken from it, well, how I awakened. I awakened because I had enough. That's when you wake up spiritually. You have enough. What happened to me? I had enough of the matrix self. But then once you decide, that's when you awaken. Once you decide to look within yourself and let your inner self lead the way. But it's awakening. Spiritual awakening is an authentic. It was such an authentic moment for me when I started going through this. I literally had enough of everything. And I remember, I say it all the time in videos, I sat down one day and really had enough. And then all of a sudden, I started to go through this awakening. But obviously what happened was I awakened myself. Unexpectedly, I didn't know that that was going to happen at that time. I didn't know before that moment that that was going to manifest a spiritual awakening. And then I started to go through this path. And like I say, it's all I'm trying to do in these videos is I'm trying to just share my experiences and to help. Like I say, I've done a post yesterday on Facebook about trolls, and it's pathetic what these trolls. Some of these trolls build accounts against like conspiracy theorists or people that are trying to make a difference, that are trying their best, even if someone is like a flat earther. I've got friends on the internet who are flat earthers, but they're trying to make a difference, and they're doing for good. But the trolls, they're doing for bad, because all they want to do is bring people down, and it doesn't achieve anything. Right? It doesn't achieve. David Icke, in one of his videos, I think it was many years ago, he said that if people would just make their contribution instead of undermining those that are trying to do that, he says the world would be a much better place. And that's the thing. That's why I try and share this message on. I try to get the word out. I use the internet to try and spread this word. I mean, regarding my awakening, like I say, it was unexpected, but I then realized that we're all going through an awakening. We're all awakening from this matrix. And what's actually happening is the matrix is reacting to the awakening. There's people that talk about the matrix, but they've never had a spiritual awakening. Don't listen to them people. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just looking what other people are saying. I had a spiritual awakening, right? So once you have that spiritual awakening, it's not to say that I know more than anybody else, but if someone's had a spiritual awakening, then they've had the awakening. They've had the big awakening. If someone hasn't had that yet, then they don't really know what they're saying. And so yeah, and what I try and do is just share this message on. To try and awaken other people. I think that I had a very painful awakening, but that's because it was unexpected. And that's the thing. Once you have that spiritual awakening, you become a real spiritual teacher, because you've went through the awakening process. And then you can pass that message on, and other people can awaken through you without having that painful big awakening. You see, I think that's the whole point of people like me having these big awakenings, so that other people can wake up spiritually without going through that trauma. But regarding the matrix self, that's really what that's really, regarding that noise. That's just I've got cats, and she's talking to her kittens just now. But moving on from that, yeah, the trauma. So everything I said to my dad recently how everything comes from the subconscious, and I was trying to explain to him. I don't think he quite understood what I meant, but I'll say it now actually. That because once you have that spiritual awakening, you're now interacting. Your conscious mind is now in aligning with the subconscious mind. This is some people can do hours and hours of hypnotherapy and never do this. And because you've had that awakening, what's happened is your conscious mind is now aligning and in tune with the subconscious mind. So now what you're able to do is you're able to pick up all these egoic emotions. It's like the ego has, in that spiritual awakening, it's like the ego becomes, it's like in particles, in broken particles. Like imagine a window smash and you got all these particles. And that's kind of like the ego when you become awakened to the ego. And it's like egoic particles. And some of these particles are actually for you, and sometimes it can be against you. But by meditating in the present moment, by becoming present and really doing a lot of meditation in present moment, you've got to become meditation. Because meditation is our natural transcendental state. I think that's why meditation was called that by somebody. I think they call it transcendental meditation because that's what you become. You become transcendental in meditation. And yeah, once you start to become present, like for me, it was an unexpected spiritual awakening. Then I started to become more present, because the divine self, the heaven self, is leading you, and what it's telling you and showing you is to be present. Then you start to be aware of the matrix more. Right, you start to be aware of all your egoic stuff. Then you start to, and what's happened is you're expanding your awareness, and your awareness is aware of your subconscious traumas, and these subconscious traumas are the things that steer your ego. This is how, when you spiritually awaken, what's happened is your ego is falling to bits, is breaking down, because you're aware of what forms the ego. By being aware of what forms the ego, you can heal it. But you've got to go through this process of the matrix, of awakening, of all these different stages, because it's all everything's synchronistic when you start awakening, and everything is synchronistic, and you realize everything is perfectly arranged and put in place so that you can develop perfectly, absolutely perfectly. And then you can get all this clarity and understanding, right? So then you realize that nothing is actually random. Nothing is random, and that the matrix, it was. You understand why you had to experience this matrix, and then, it's a process. Like I say, it's a process. Awakening. And the way I am now is I have lots of understanding now of the matrix reality. I have lots of understanding of what forms the matrix reality. I have lots of understanding about the ego and how the traumas, and the next thing you got to ask yourself is that what is creating this egoic traumas? You see, that what to form the matrix. And then you realize that it's all actually just created so that you can go through it. And that when you awaken, because you went through the matrix and you went through this harsh stuff, you actually are better for it. And so it means that everything's actually perfect. This is just what I experience all the time. It's just a synchronistic journey, the spiritual awakening process. And by me shading it, like I say, it means that you can start going through that yourself. And start tuning to your heaven self. You can do it right now. You can do it right now. But and because like I say, that's what the spiritual awakening is doing. It's tuning you into, you've got a heaven self, and the heaven self is the you, like I say, that lives in heaven, because everything's parallel realities, you see. And you can tune into any parallel reality you want. But I usually finish the video just about 15 minutes. I like to do that so that I can upload it to Facebook. It might be a bit more difficult if I wait longer. But I'm just going to leave it there. Please do visit my website for latest updates. I always upload my videos there. And my website is www.lovelightfamily.com. Thank you very much for watching and listening.